Hey everybody, welcome to another segment of Tony's show. And today we are going to be, man, I'm going to tell you, today was a day of pandemonium, conundrum. It's just one thing after another. Okay, the first thing I got going was I heard that now Trump is, with the military industrial complex backing him up, sounds like he's going to make a coup on America. And the argument is he's going to go after everybody that had corrupted or interfered with the elections. And he's even going to, according to the article, come after Canada with sanctions. He's going to sanction Canada because of the machines that were built here designed to cause the chaos that went on in America. And everything that I'm seeing that has transpired here is leading to a coup. And I'm seeing the whole thing now with Biden and Trump having their little head-butting, you know, you're an asshole, blah, 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 you're bullshit, whatever. It seems to me that this is all being staged, and staged really, really, really heavily. Because with the military-industrial complex and the power he has right now, he could pull it off very easily. And with the events that have occurred, with the elections being fraud, this is going to drive America into an area of government that puts America in a real tenuous position. I mean, America is a dangerous country to begin with, but in this scenario, it makes America even far more dangerous because now it's like a machine, and rights and freedoms that Americans are going to have are going to be completely null. Then there was something else I seen. I got to look at my document here for a minute. I mean, this was going on there. In your area of politics, I probably should have shut the thing down. Hold on a second. So I got here. I'll have to reopen my. Give me a minute. I'll reopen the thing. Then there was this. Again, more and more information about Canada and China. I was listening to a couple of guys talking about the what the hell is it called here? Let me see. I got it here. Doctrine of equity. And the guy that was talking about the doctrine of equity was talking about common law and all the different things, and how common law really isn't the way to go, because common law basically sets procedural standards on how to approach a court, where the doctrine of equity actually supersedes the common law. And he was explaining it pretty good. And the guys were talking about China and how China, this was an interesting perspective, I thought, has a big military, has about a 300 million soldier military. But the problem with that military is they need all the military they have to contain the people they have in China, because the people they have in China, the population they have, needs that kind of heavy hand to control the slaves. They can't really afford to send out soldiers all over the place like America does, or or Russia does, or other countries. The United States and Russia, the people are pretty civil, and you have a military presence, obviously, to maintain order and whatever. But China really can't afford to do that. So the soldier, and the thing about the Chinese military, I'm gathering. But it's not to underestimate them, but they are really incompetent. Truly incompetent, because they needed the Canadian military to teach them how to winter soldier. In other words, how to winter tactics in the military. And the generals were against it. Mr. Trudeau was having a fit. But this was showing me more and more how they're not really a superpower. They're more like a police force. That's the impression I got. They're not. And I keep seeing that over and over. Every video I've ever watched with them trying to even confront America, America basically slams them down hard. China cannot beat America. Period. Militarily, they're not even in the same league at all. They have the toys, they have the bells, they have the whistles, but America will smoke them in a battle every time, in a military confrontation. But where China will kick America in the can is in the financial world. Because where America is the currency of the world, China now is controlling the flow of that currency by controlling every port in the world. So this is the tactics that they're using on each other. But this is also leading to a whole new dynamic in the one world system. The two will eventually merge on some level or integrate on some level if it hasn't already done so. But we're seeing these things going on right in front of our eyes, and the way the media is casting the shadow on what's going on, or the perspective of what's going on, it makes you think that this is just a simple battle in the United States in a political realm. This is not a battle on a political realm. This is a battle on a military realm. Okay, and as I said before, I was talking to some people in America, so this, Americans don't really see this election correctly. This was a battle between the Jesuits and the Zionists, who was going to actually take power over America. You got Biden and you got Trump. One is one and one is the other. But seeing this all and continuing to see this drama unfold, this is going to take America out of a capitalism where everybody can share the wealth to a serfism where there's a hierarchy that had the wealth, and the serfs served that hierarchy, sort of like the Hunger Games, where the elite lived in the major cities, and the people that lived in the outskirts and in the rural areas and the outlying places provided the service to sustain the cities. And the way the cities rewarded is to have these gladiator type games where the different districts fought against each other and slaughtered each other. And again, this continued for quite some time because the people lost their will to fight and basically capitulated to this sickness, this sick bloodlust that these elite have. The Roman games and all the games in the past in these arenas were nothing but to satisfy a bloodlust or a need for adrenochrome, the taste for blood. Amazing when you sit there and see more and more how history has not changed one bit at all. The only difference that has happened is the dial of the knob or the dial of the channel has changed. Nothing else has changed except the station has changed. The station identification may have changed, but the program is still running continuously. It is one of these most frustrating things in life to see this program and being frustrated with it, because the majority of the people are hooked on the program. They can't see the program. They don't even understand that the program exists. They just think that this is life. When you're oblivious to everything that's going on, you just think that this is life. This is, the best, the good, as good as it's going to get. You're going to get married, have a couple of kids, work a job, pay off a mortgage, retire, pay off a university loan, and then die. This is the highlight of life in the Matrix. In between all this, maybe you take a vacation, you do something unusual, and you have a bit of a high and an excitement because you've done something out of the ordinary. But in the end, it's a jail. It's just pure slavery. And watching the events of today, just today alone was like, I was alarmed when I saw what I was reading with Trump and the military-industrial complex. I saw this as a coup happening. And I'm just wondering, how bad is the system at this stage? Where the democratic process has been interfered by everything under the sun. It's been going on forever. It's been going for at least 20 years, if not more. But when we're seeing nations getting involved in the electoral process so that the man that's in the White House can get along with everybody else that's in the rest of the world, in the European Union, in Russia, and China, India, and all these other places, It's mind-boggling and really mind-staggering when this is going on so blatantly right in front of everybody, and nobody's really seeing this or interpreting it in this fashion. But I mean, well, how else would you interpret if this had been Venezuela, if this had been Costa Rica, if this had been El Salvador, Nicaragua, if it had been Mexico, if it had been any country in South America, we would have said this was a coup, this was a military takeover, a military dictatorship. This is what we would have called it. But because it's in America, now it's a political war. Oh boy, oh boy. Sometimes I amaze myself, even some of the stuff that comes out of me. But I mean, this is what I'm seeing. And the reason why I can say this is because I've had, like I said, some history. I've seen things from the 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, 2000, and every decade there's been some situation that resembles what's going on, but it was happening elsewhere. So I have to think, in my mind, that those places that this was going on was a prototype, a practice run, a study, if you will, to see what's going to happen, how to make it happen, so forth and so on. So like I said, when we're looking at all that is happening today and what's happening today, the distractions are off the chart. Now, I heard a general say last night about the vaccine, D-Day, the beginning of the end. I heard that statement and I thought, you got to be kidding me. Now, if anybody has heard that statement, actually fell for the bullshit that this guy was telling people, they're not really awake to see the message, because the message is actually telling you and saying loud and clear that this is the beginning of the end. These vaccines are the engagement of the program that they had actually made song about in regarding to the weapons of mass destruction. We're going to be something on a pharmaceutical level. Now, today there were Dutch nurses, I think 78,000 Dutch nurses in the Netherlands said, we are not going to take the shot. We are not your guinea pigs. Smart women. Now, I'm wondering, again, I'm not holding my breath here, nor am I having any high expectations. But I'm wondering how many people in Canada are actually thinking along those lines. How many of you are actually thinking that quite possibly you're an experiment? You're an experiment waiting to happen, and you're an experiment that, that they want to engage this vaccine in. And if you live, oh well. If you don't live, oh well. Hold on. Now that's an Austrian MP in Austria in front of the parliament. Now it won't pay me to record it for you because he's speaking Austrian. But I'll tell you, he's pissed. He is good and pissed. They tested cola, Coca-Cola, not Coca-Cola, but cola, pop, soda pop, cola pop. He tested it right in front of Parliament, and the cola was positive for COVID or Corona or cockaboo boo boo or whatever you want to call it. Since we don't have a biomarker, I don't even know why we're even calling it in any kind of name. How come we're not calling it Virus X or Virus X151 or something? Because we don't really know what this is. See, this is what gets me too. Nothing has changed in the identifying marker of this particular pandemic. Nothing. We don't know if it's a virus. We don't know really what it is. All we know right now is we're in flu season, and people are dying of pneumonia from wearing these effing masks. This is what we do know. Now, in my field, being a herbalist and being an orthomolecular, working with orthomolecular nanobiology, you have to have something to substantiate whatever it is you're dealing with in order to properly assess and to administer the things that are required to help a person recover or heal. That's just common sense. Sometimes when people go to a doctor and the doctor tells them certain things and then they describe to me the symptomologist said your doctor misdiagnosed you. So, and usually what winds up happening is they follow the doctor's advice for, maybe months or even years, and then they come back and said, you were right, it isn't what they said it was all bullshit. They said, that's what I was trying to save you some time. Now we got 2 more years of undoing the bullshit that they did to you. So when we're looking at the medical practitioners today, and how many of them are on the take, and how much bullshit we've been told about this, nobody has seen anybody die, yet everybody's still scared out of their wits. We're now in a lockdown in Windsor, Ontario. For what? I have no idea. But I'll have to say this, Florida may have cracked a chink in the chain. Florida now is requiring how many cycles that they tested in order to find a positive response. They are demanding that the cycle information be out there on request. And this should be going on in Canada, this should be going on in Europe, this should be going on in Africa, South America, the Caribbean, Mexico, Russia, Australia, New Zealand, China. Forget China. China ain't going to give you the truth no matter what you do there. So that's just a lost ball in the high weeds. Then you got India, all of Africa, South Africa. Where is the cycle that they're determining that the numbers are going up? We have an effing psychologist running the health department in Windsor, Ontario. An unqualified buffoon. Couldn't tie his effing shoes if they were Velcro. This gets me so effing pissed off, you have no idea. You have no idea. I mean, to find this kind of incompetence administering the regulations that he has absolutely no effing clue what he's doing. You know, and I still believe that we should get a group of us in Windsor and sue this son of a bitch for every effing thing he's got, because he is so unqualified. And then right after that, go after the mayor. Go after the mayor. There's been more than enough information that has come out to show that this is completely fraudulent, that we don't need these lockdowns, and these lockdowns are doing nothing but destroying the economy on purpose. We are heading for serfdom. For those of you who do not know what serfdom is, serfdom was a terminology used way back in the day when you had kings and queens and lords and all this other bullshit in the United Kingdom. So basically, when you worked on the farm, you were a serf. You tilled the land, took care of the land, and the resources went to the lords or the administrators of the land, or anybody who had some sort of entitlement. You're basically a Toby. Okay, you were basically a Toby. So that's all you were. They fed you, they clothed you, they took care of you, supposedly. And if you didn't perform enough, they would whip you sometimes. So basically, you're going back to the days of Tobiness. Hey, Toby, come here. I want you to go pick some cotton. I don't care about your color. Pick that cotton. You know, that's where we're going. That's where we're going. We are already at the stage right now where we have a fountain. We have 2 fountains. One's for the coloreds, and one for the light skins. Okay. Now, but instead of colored and light skin, now we have one fountain for the the maskers, and we have another one for the unmaskers. If you're an unmasker, you can't go in this place. You know. Now wait, just wait. Now we're going to take that to a whole new level. We're now going to give you a vaccine that you absolutely do not need for a contagion that does not exist, for a symptomology that has a 99.9% survival rate, and yet we're going to have a D-Day. The beginning of the end. This is what this general said, or major general, or whatever the hell he was. The beginning of the end. You know, and then I was reading about our wonderful Canada. Oh, Canada. Oh, Canada. You know, it's sad. I feel really sad, depressed a lot of times, and angry to see my country getting abused this way. Seeing our country getting wiped out by a group of brainless buffoons. Baboons have more brains than our parliament. And we're seeing them destroy this country. They've been trying to destroy Canada ever since they created the bilingual bullshit that they created in this country, to create a division in this country that should never have ever happened. This country has more potential than almost any other country in the world, and yet they destroyed that potential by creating these divisions that they've caused. People in this country do not identify themselves as Canadian. This is unfortunate because it's a good identifier. We have a bad profile government, but that does not reflect the people of this country. And people need to be aware that we do have something worth fighting for in this country, and to get rid of the bullshit that we have been fed, and to cut all these treaties with the United Nations and every other thing that has been trying to dominate the territory and the parliaments and everything else that's going on in this country. This is unbelievable that they have the parliament has basically allowed the UN to take over. That irritates the shit right out of me. You have no idea. You have no idea. Seeing this becoming a shadow of what it once was, it's annoying to see this. It's totally annoying. But anyway, I digress. The concept here, the inventor of the PCR tests is exposing the whole game, and then they killed him. Cola testing positive for Corona. I mean, are you effing kidding me? Are you kidding me? Testing a beverage and it's coming out positive. Oh, your cola has Corona. You better put a mask on it. Bring it in next week and we'll give it a vaccine. Make sure it sanitizes its lid. Make sure it wears a diaper around this, around this emblem. Make sure you dip it in some methanol. The unfortunate reality about this whole situation is the general population right now is under this enchantment, and they believe, and they through either fear or anxiety or plausibility that this boogeyman might exist. And the unfortunate reality is they are sucked into this. Now, I've said this many a time on the show, and other people are saying the same thing now. They have come to the conclusion that, it's pointless to try to reach out to people. Now, I keep on reaching out, but I don't make that my emphasis anymore. My emphasis now is on research and development and getting prepared, and those who are already awake to fortify, edify, and maintain them, help everybody maintain their perspective and their objective, and being objective to what is our goal here. See, anybody that's awake understands that this is a war among the people that are awake and those who are trying to take control of everything on the planet. And the only thing right now, in my humblest opinion, this is my humblest estimation, that is stopping has slowed us down on any level are those people who are awake, which have been now also assaulted and violated by the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom with his last speech that I did in the last show, pointing out how he was against the anti-vaxxers, and the anti-vaxxers were using some sort of doctrine or whatever, and he was just trying very hard to make a mockery out of the rights that people that have to make choices. See, if you're of certain sobriety and you have certain capacity to understand the reality of what's existing today and what's really going on, you are not going to take this shot. The reality is it's an untested vaccine. You'd have to be an effing moron to bear your arm or your ass for this needle. Now, like I said, the Dutch nurses are saying they're not their guinea pig, and they're correct. So, like I said, all this is being orchestrated in some sort of fantasy hologram that they're playing to get everybody to believe that they have this to their best interest, and that we've got some serious problem going on. And yet the hospitals are empty. I'll tell you the problem we have going on. I'll tell you the real serious problem we have going on. The serious problem we got going on right now in Canada and America are the homeless. We have homeless people living in the streets because the governments have regulated the cost of living to be so high and so costly that nobody in the native country, Canadians in Canada and Americans in America, can afford to live in affordable housing. We don't have that. The bankers, the Zionists, the Jesuits, the Papists, the monarchists that control the flow of money in regarding to land and land control have made it in such a way that we who live in Canada and the United States cannot afford to even buy a house. There is no effing way, and I'm going to say this straight out, in Windsor, Ontario, that a house is worth $400,000. There's no effing way. The best you should be able to get here in the city of Windsor is about $100,000 to $120,000 max. Max. If you get out in the south end of Windsor, maybe about $250,000. There is absolutely no economy here whatsoever that would encourage that kind of money being spent. But what we've got going on is we've got an inflated economy going on. We've got people from Toronto and other places who have lived in a more higher cost of living are coming down here and bidding these houses out of sight, forcing an inflation in the city that shouldn't be here. And as a result, we have homeless here too, which have been driven out of the parks. And I don't understand why the city did that. I really don't understand that one. They weren't bothering anybody to set up tents because they had no place to live. They had no place to go, so they set up tents and formed a community. And the city drove them away. You know why? Because they couldn't collect the taxes. Couldn't collect the revenue. And it's an unsightly, it's an abhorrent scene to have a city showing that we have impoverished people here that we are not taking care of. See, we have gone from a society where we actually gave a shit about the elderly and the poor and the ill and the sick and so forth and so on. And now because the government has decided to cut the costs on education, on medical, on seniors and everything else, everybody now has adapted to this ideology and philosophy. So now we don't have the same moral or ethical or spiritual values we once had 30 or 40 years ago. Let me all remind you of something. You reap what you sow. In some future point in time, whatever it may be, whether you're 30 and that's considered old age, or 40 and it's considered old age, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, whatever, wherever it is that you wind up getting broken down, because you will, this matrix will break you down. I don't care if you're running computers. I don't care if you're running IT. I don't care if you're running telecommunications. I don't care if you're running industry. I don't care if you're running transportation. I don't care what you're running. There's something in every field that will take you out and will cause an exponential aging process to occur, no matter how affluential or how much money you're making. And it seems the more money they're paying you, the quicker you die. That's what it appears. That's what I've seen over time. Guys are making $80,000 or $90,000 in the automotive industry annually, making that kind of money, didn't live very long once they retired, and some of them never even made it to retirement age as a result of being exposed to epigenetics inside in these factories that cause a high acceleration of aging to occur in their lives. IT industry has the same thing. There's a lot of chemicals, a lot of things that you're exposed to that can, again, further exacerbate your immune system, causing, again, an epigenetic effect to cause damage to your system. The radiation from these monitors, radiation from your cell phones, etc. Same thing with telecommunications, same thing with the transportation. So you're a truck driver, you're running up and down the road. You know, what will kill you eventually will be black lung. If that doesn't get you, heart failure will, because the high stress and demands of that job. That is the number one most stressful job in North America, is truck driving. It has surpassed the air traffic controllers back in the late 80s, early 90s. So this place has been designed to create the hijacking, and as a result now we have to start looking at very, very closely in regard to, where do we want to go? Where do we want to head? What type of society do we really want? Do we want to be under the thumb of a tyrannical government? Do we want to be under the gun of a technocratic system that gives you absolutely no rights? All you are is an automaton or peripheral for the artificial intelligence. I was reading something today even, and remember we were talking about saving the head and some other shows. Well, they found out, interesting enough, this was a study I was looking at, they found out that if you cut the head off, it still will retain all the data, memories, everything. It doesn't die. Like the brain will continue to store that data. So as soon as they lop off the head, you're now going to proceed to download all this information. As I said before, the AI does not have to go through the process of trying to learn anything, because now all it would require is for you to download the data and the experiences that you've had in your life from your brain into the machine, and it will immediately have that information. Imagine that. Imagine that. I was listening to a couple of guys, same guys talking about China, and again gave me a perspective of China. And as India further develops its military, China is going to shit more and more and more, because then they're not going to be able to fool around the way they're doing now. And maybe India may force them to develop some ethics which they're severely lacking in their established government. But anyway, there's a book everybody should get. The link is here. I encourage everyone to download it. Doctrine of Equity, a book everyone should download. I was listening to the guys talking about the common law, and the guy that was talking about the common law, he was very experienced in this whole concept of these alternative information on laws and stuff, and they mentioned this. He was saying that in England, when they were creating the laws and they had the common law, there were so many problems with it that they took them 20 years to study it, and they came out with the doctrine of equity, which supersedes any other common law, maritime law, or whatever. This law, he said, the difference between the common law is because it's the same system that they're using in the courts today, is a procedural process that if you understand the procedural process and the other person doesn't, this is how you can win in common law. But in the doctrine of equity, if you're using this is all about equalization and fairness. And he says under this, he said he won every court case he had with this. So, and I thought, well, maybe everybody should be able to read it. And again, I put it up here, download it, store it, keep it. This book is so hard to find, not finds per se, but finding it so that you can download it. It's buried, and I found it, and so I put it out there so everybody can get it. So again, I'm encouraging you to download this book and share it with your network. Share it with your network. Yeah, weapons of mass corruption and disruption. This is where I saw it on the YouTube here. The guy was what he was talking. I have been saying for the longest time, for decades. So is Brian 396, about how they can now put memories into your head and you wouldn't even know they're not yours. They can make you do stuff and then wipe out that memory. The level of advancement that they're talking today in regarding to mind control, brain control, frequencies, DNA. Hey, listen, they could inject stuff into you. You could eat something, and this is why I tell you all the time, don't eat any grains, any breads, any pastas, any rices, any cereals. Don't eat any of these foods. These foods are super saturated with nanobiotech. And all it would take for them is to activate a frequency to turn on some program in your head, and they can make you visualize and see things in your mind that may not even be real or true. And they can also access your head. Like I said, the game, what is it? The Matrix is saying it's a battle for your mind, Neo. That's what he told them. Now we're seeing it. Now we're seeing the science. This is not sci-fi anymore at all. This is the reality in the world we're living in today. This is why they're trying to run so hard to get a one world network, because under a one world network, everybody's brain would be networked to the artificial intelligence. You would be the peripheral of a machine. And everything you know, it will know. There'll be no more secrets. No more hidden anything. No more personal, private things that you don't want to share. No more things you want to talk with. There's, nothing is sacred. It's all, we are one. We are a gestalt. A gestalt basically is a community that serves a hierarchy. For instance, bees and ants are a gestalt. All the worker ants, all the worker bees, all serve the queen. Okay, and they all have a specific function within the collective that they're in to do specific things in order to sustain and maintain the balance of either the hive or the anthill or the colony. So this is a gestalt system, and this is where it's all heading to. It's coming to a head in this regard. Those are, and now, someone was mentioning something about the dissenters. They want to know now who the dissenters are going to be in regarding to vaccines. They need to get us out of the way, one way or another. If we're too much of a problem, then they're going to just wipe us out. That's a fact. They ain't going to be nice about it. They'll take us out, take off our head, and download the data. This is what they're going to do. This is the game. Like I said, this is the beginning. This is the beginning of the end of all things, as that general was saying. The beginning of the end. The beginning of the end. We went right back to full circle. So when we're looking at stuff, and when we're reading things today, I don't get so much alarmed by this. When I read this, I'm glad I got the exposure to it, because it gets my mind to think, all right, how do I circumvent this? What do I do to neutralize this? Or how do I avoid this? And if I can't avoid this, how do I confront this so that I come out on top with minimal damage? This is how you got to start to think. Now, as I said earlier, if you're just not waking up to these realities, this may sound so far-fetched to you that it sounds like some futuristic game or war or movie that you're involved with. Well, unfortunately, that's the truth. That's really where you're at today. We're in a futuristic realm where the technology of the future is already here, and they're already applying it. They're creating artificial soldiers. They're creating a network to be able to access your mind. They're creating networks that can actually cause your DNA to be altered. China, I was reading today about China. China. Oh, well, they are now working on genetics. 2 million super soldiers. I told one guy this will put a wrinkle in your nether regions. In his willy. I said, this will put a wrinkle in your willy. And what I meant by that, it will make you shrivel up, and with the perspective of this should make you freak out. That they are experimenting with men in China and women to turn them into a super soldier, a Captain America, if you will, a Captain America of China, Captain China. He's got a star and a shield. And it's made of vibranium or some metal or whatever, Space age weapon, carbon C60, diamine, carbamine, carbamer. This is where it's at. 2 million super soldiers. Can you imagine that? Now, what's America doing? And how far up the game is America with this? How far up the game is Russia with this? How far up the game is Germany with this? How far up the game is the UK with this? How far up the game is France with this? France is talking about the bionic soldier in the last show. Telling a buddy of mine, says, well, I hope you're working on explosives, because it may take more than bullets to put these things down. This is the reality here. If you alter a genome or a code in the DNA or RNA, you can enhance a lot of. They were talking about, for instance, if a guy is climbing up a mountain and has to work in thin environment, you can genetically engineer a person or put a gene in that person so that they can thrive in that environment and not have problems breathing or utilizing oxygen correctly. This is where we're at. We're no longer reading a comic book anymore. All the things I remember reading as a child, even today when I read comics, when I look at the comics, all I'm seeing is tech and hardware. I cannot imagine how nobody can see it today. But back in my day when we looked at comics, we looked at, Superman and the good guy against the bad guy, and Thor and Captain America and Batman, Iron Man, all the rest of them. Now you look at them and think, holy jeez. This is nothing but nanotech, biotech, nanoengineering, nano constructs, nanoengineering, bioengineering, biotech engineering. I mean, it's just phenomenal what they've done, and all the different things they're showing you. And if you paid attention, you may actually look at some of the things that they did to get these superpowers and super enhancements. And a lot of times it had to do with genetic manipulation. Just about all the superheroes had some sort of genetic manipulation. Superman came from another planet. Apparently his parents did not want him genetically engineered, so they decided to share their own genetic code and then downloaded other if you look at the movie part of it. But we're talking of a genetically engineered child, so that when it came under the different frequency of a different sun, all of a sudden he had these enhanced abilities. Another one got hit with gamma radiation, all of a sudden became this gigantic behemoth. Another one picked up a magic stick which altered its genetic code. I mean, it's one after another after another. And then the programs that were downloaded, a guy in a tin can with a AI network connected directly to him. I mean, it's like I said, it's all we were shown in a comic today may be a reality. So now how do you stop some of this? Think about it. The one thing that you have to remember on any level with a super soldier or any kind of program is you'd have to neutralize their capacity to use their strength or their abilities. Once you do that, you've neutralized them. That's how you would do it. So, and again, this is something that you need to think about. It's just like anything else that you learn. If you got somebody bigger and stronger than you, and you neutralize their capacity to use their strength or their abilities, you won the battle. That day, you won the battle. That's how that works. So, this is how you have to start thinking. This is how you have to start analyzing. This is how you have to start perceiving things. I haven't had a chance to really get into reading, looking for certain things in Revelations. There is a verse in Revelations, if it's hasn't been altered or changed or whatever, but it used to be a verse in Revelations that believers would be hunted night and day, and those things that were hunting them needed sleep, rest, or food. That sounds like a synthetic life, or sounds like some sort of enhanced, engineered nanobio life, because they're incorporating silicon carbon. This has been going on for quite some time. Now there's that aspect of it, and again, I got to find it. I'd have to look it up in some sort of concordance or search. And maybe you might find it as well. But this is an indicator talking about a war against the saints. So like I said, if we know it's coming, then it gives us time to prepare. And understanding how to neutralize something that much powerful, you have to understand you're dealing with genetics. Then you also have to deal with what is holding the glue. What's the glue holding that genetic code? Wipe out the code, guess what? You got nothing. Code's gone. This is how this nanobiology works. The same thing. I've often said, if you don't disengage the program or the operating system, it's a exercise in futility. It will continue to perpetuate its network or its algorithm or its paradigm that has been programmed to do. So Everything is connected. It's just more evolved. Always remember that. Everything is connected. It's just more evolved. In other words, what we're seeing with computers and how we interface and how we connect, the next level is more. It's the same thing, just more evolved, more developed, more advanced, more efficient, has better interconnectivity, so it can better communicate with itself, and it can transfer data far faster than it did to the previous model. So this is the world we're living in today. Hey, can you dig it? Are you happy? Doesn't this sound like we're going to have a lot of fun? Imagine that. Imagine. I mean, think about this for a minute, right? Just for 1 second. We've all heard the story of David and Goliath, right? Big 13-foot giant, 400 or 500 pound super soldier, probably genetically engineered, and you got a little 13-year-old boy, and the super soldier says, "This is what you send to me. This is what you this is what's going to fight for you." And then little David says, "By the end of the day, God will deliver deliver your head in my hand. Your head will be off your shoulder." The guy says, "I'll have you for bread," or whatever he said to him. And David said, "You know what? Watch what me and God are going to do to you, or watch what God and me are going to do to you." They whooped that super soldier's ass, didn't he? Took off his head, said, "There you go," with his own technology. And where did David hit him? Where did David hit him? Right between the eyes, right where the pineal connect. He took out his. Well, if you sit there and think about it, the pineal is an access for information and transmission. Basically disconnected him from the program. That's what he did. He disconnected him from the program, and as soon as the program was no longer running and functioning, Goliath went down. Click. He shut down. Just like when a computer, something happens, the computer overloads, it shuts down, right? It just shuts right down. But that's what happened. And then Dave decided, well, since you're out, I'll disconnect you permanently. And he did. He took his head off. No wonder the Chinese said, "Hey, give us Goliath's head. Let's see what's in it." Think about that. Think about that. Okay. Like I said, I mean, we all have the capacity to be another David. I mean, Jesus said he goes to the Father, right? And greater works than these will we do because he goes to the Father. Well, you never know. You never know. I'm one of these guys that I'm optimistic. I'm a realistic optimist. Okay, I'm a realistic optimist, which may sound like an oxymoron. But there's optimism that is pie in the sky, and there's a realistic optimism where, okay, if we know what is there, then we also have now the opportunity and the option to be able to negate and neutralize what we're dealing with. That's a realistic approach, and that's the optimism I have, because it gives me the perspective that if there is a will, there's a way. We've all heard this, right? If there's a will, there's a way. But before you can go there, you first have to know what you're fighting. What are you dealing with? What are you contending with? We are contending today on 3 different fronts. Just so everybody knows this, that I'm pointing this out, so not to freak you out. But there are days, a lot of days you feel exasperated, and you feel sometimes this is pointless, hopeless, whatever. You're dealing with an external front, people all around you being knuckleheads, hypnotized, enchanted, asleep. And that can tax you. You're being dealt with internally with the emotions and the stresses and the anxieties you're dealing with on a daily basis. Not only are you trying to make a living and try to keep yourself afloat, now you're dealing with all the opposition coming your way to alter the reality that we're in, alter everything that you've ever worked for. That's another stress. And then you're also dealing with another stress regarding to what's happening, where it's going, and how it's getting there, and all the other different fears that are out there. So we're getting hit on 3 different fronts. This is why it's important that you network with people who are like-minded. Everybody's getting hit with it, but when everybody gets together and brainstorms, that's when you start coming up with some really good solutions. And then there's objectives and goals that you can actually realistically reach, build, test, and be prepared with. And that's really how it's going to work. When you talk about the early church was a communist movement. Anybody says that it wasn't, they're full of shit. The church gathered together, the people that believed gathered together, lived as a community. They all shared their wealth, they all gave their wealth, it was all delegated, everything was paid for. And the interesting thing that went on there is they did commerce among themselves. I was listening to these guys the other day, going back to them, and they were saying, look at the Hasidics, look at the Hutterites, look at the Latter-day Saints, they all do commerce within themselves. They keep the commerce in their communities. Well, these are lessons that we need to pay attention to, because this is really where it's going to go with people who are awake. We're going to form a new community, and commerce is going to be very difficult to deal with a matrix that isn't going to be using currency. Digitization is just another means of control. When you have actual commerce in your hand, you have currency in your hand, you have power, you have real power. So when you go into a shop or a store and they give you a hard time, so see this currency? It's coming out with me. I was going to leave it here, but now it's going home. And that's power. The next time you come in, they might just kiss your backside. Oh, we have a sale here. Oh, look at this. I thought you liked this here. Look at what it's going for. Anything to get you to leave your power behind. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Alrighty. Talking about community, talking about all these things, I always tell people to read the Gospels, because it's important that you do read the Gospels. Read what Jesus had to say. You see how they lived, what they did, and how they actually manifested a community, a real community. One where people were actually free, and the common denominator there was the faith. So anyway, read about Jesus, read what he had to say, and take a walk on the wild side. Just read it. Just read it. Don't let anybody BS you. Don't let anybody bunk you. Don't let anybody teach you. Read it for yourself first. Eventually, God will lead you to where you need to go. It's God's word. You're not sure about it. Ask God what it means. Have him show you. He will. Check it out. Check out the Gospels. And again, I pointed out, if you do find a community, I won't even say the word church anymore, because I think today the word church has lost all its essence, really. When you find a community of believers that are grounded in the Bible, solid, and I'm not talking about organizations, I'm not talking about organized, whatever, I'm talking about individual believers, okay, not affiliated with any institution, because all those who are affiliated with institutions have become institutionalized, and they don't realize it. So I'm talking about people of community, a singularity, if you will, in regarding to not being institutionalized. Those are the people that you want to affiliate with and have a fellowship with in regarding to a real, legitimate faith. That's just my perspective. After going through so many different things and seeing so much bullshit, it seems to me the best way, or seems to be the best thing that I seen work anyway. So, pay attention. On my site, I've got all kinds of links there. Today, I think you should go there and really take a look, have a walk on the wild side. Check out all the people that are there. Help them financially if you can. Send whatever donations you can to them. Help them out. Like I said, you got Sherry 3 Arts Church. You got Brian 396. You got Ty out in the West Coast. You got Shai in the Middle East. You got Yanni in Europe. You got me in Canada. Help anybody you can. If you can't help them, that's no big deal. Share their information. Post their information. Share it. Alrighty, and as I always state, we are still here by the grace of God. So by the grace of God, till the next segment, to your health, take care.